Okay, everybody, some news. I was going to say sad news, but I don't know if it's sad. Maybe it's not, because I don't know. I am a fan of Rage Against the Machine, but I think it's usually good news when a band breaks up that's been around for like 30 or 40 years or something like that. I mean, these guys have been around since 91 or something, so 35 years now, pretty much. I'm generally in favor of that. I'm generally in favor of bands breaking up on top. Not to say that they're on top now, but you know, they're not going out bad. You know, that's what you don't want. Like, if you're an MMA fan, you know, like Tony Ferguson is what? Lost. He's gotten the absolute piss beat out of him like 7 times in a row now, you know, or Chuck Liddell getting like knocked out dead like 5 times in a row. And you're just like, no, Chuck, no, please don't get in the ring again. You're going to get blown into the nosebleed seats by a stiff breeze, right? That's what I don't like to see. I don't like to see bands sort of clinging to life long after they should. And I don't think Rage Against the Machine has done that. And I don't want them to. So I think this is actually good news. So here it is from Loudwire. Rage Against the Machine will not be touring or playing live again, says Brad Wilk, that is the drummer, which, you know, seems to mean that they are breaking up. So here's what he had to say on Instagram, just sort of, I don't know, seems like it was kind of out of the blue. As far as I know, there wasn't any sort of like dramatic event or something like that that we know of that precipitated this. But here's what he had to say. I know a lot of people are waiting for us to announce new tour dates for all the canceled Rage Against the Machine shows. I don't want to string people or myself along any further. So while there has been some communication that this may be happening in the future, I want to let you know that Rage Against the Machine, Tim, Zach, Tom, and I will not be touring or playing live again. I'm sorry for those of you who have been waiting for this to happen. I really wish it was. So yeah, that's what he had to say. So interesting, at the time of publication, no statement has been issued through any of Rage Against the Machine's social media pages, nor via any other member of the band. So a little bit odd for him. You know, he's not typically someone who like speaks for the band. So I don't know why he is the one to sort of say this, but you know, it is what it is. So they've been back, I don't know, kind of reunited, but not really for a while. So they broke up in 2011, I think, over what they said at the time, creative differences. Who knows what that really means? I feel like, you know, creative differences is one of these things. You say creative differences just as a way to kind of make it go away. But usually it means something more than creative differences. I have no idea what it was, but that's my guess. So then they came back, they announced their reunion back in 2019. And everyone got excited, and they sold millions and millions of tickets for, you know, hundreds and hundreds of dollars, and everyone criticized them, I think rightfully, for kind of charging sky high prices despite, you know, being this like diehard anti-capitalist band the whole time. Yeah, creative differences, only thing creative is what the actual reason is. Yes, I think that's it. I think that's right. Kind of like when a couple says, we just grew apart. That's just because they don't want to tell you what really happened. So then they came back. Everyone's excited about it. But unfortunately, they only played a few shows because Zach, unfortunately, he was, you know, doing his thing on stage and tore his Achilles tendon, which really sucks. And I guess it's like a really bad tear. He posted something about it here. So it says that I have a severe tear in my left Achilles tendon, and only 8% of my tendon was left intact. And even that portion was severely compromised. It's not simply a question of being able to perform again, but extends to basic functionality going forward. That's why I've made the painful and difficult decision to cancel the remaining shows in the 2023 North American leg. Yeah, so that's rough. I mean, that's a rough injury. Like, you know, any sort of tear, especially at his age. I mean, I think he's what, like, I don't know, he's like 50 or something like that. You know, if you're 50 years old, tearing a tendon like that, I mean, like, he probably can like literally barely walk. So I think that's a pretty good reason to cancel it. Oh yeah, also Tim got cancer. I'm not sure of the status of that. I hope he's doing well now, but a lot going on there. So I thought it might be a good time for us to just sort of talk about Rage Against the Machine, give them kind of a eulogy. Let's say that, a eulogy for Rage Against the Machine. My thought on Rage Against the Machine is it's a tough one because they're so good and so cringe at the same time. It's tricky. So let's go back to their very first show. This is their very, very first show in 1991, playing just like the quad at Cal State Northridge. And there's, you know, whatever, like literally 8 people watching them. Listen to how goddamn good they were, even at their very first show. they sound amazing on their very first show, right? It's crazy. And like such good groove, like good stage. I'm just, everything about this is amazing. I can imagine, you know, A&Rs must have seen this stuff back then and just been like, holy shit, what is this? Yeah, I mean, it's amazing for their very first show. It's ridiculous. So it's interesting, you know, with Rage Against the Machine, I have so much respect for them in certain ways. And then in other ways, they just, like, you heard me. I sighed out loud and it made me shake my head. It was just like, it's really conflicted. The first thing is, a lot of people probably know this. Maybe there are people who don't. Zach is from the hardcore scene. So I knew about him before Rage Against the Machine from his band Inside Out, which a lot of people would say was the best hardcore band of kind of the late 80s and early 90s. I mean, I don't disagree with that. This was an amazing record. This is 7 inches from 1990. He was like 18 on this, and listen to his vocals on this. It sounds insane for an 18-year-old. Sounds amazing for like a zero budget hardcore 7-inch from 1990 that he was like 18. Imagine hearing an 18-year-old have like vocals like that. It's crazy. And like his stage presence back then was amazing. You know, you can really see how important to me, like Zach is Rage Against the Machine, in my opinion. Tom Morello, obviously a douchebag, which we'll talk about, but an incredibly innovative guitarist. Their rhythm section is also like bad as fuck. Like Brad and Tim as a rhythm section, just untouchable. They just like lock in and groove so hard. But you can really see how important Zach was, because if you listen to like Prophets of Rage, yeah, exactly. It's dated rap rock without Zach. Exactly. So like listen to Prophets of Rage, which was essentially Rage Against the Machine without Zach, and it's terrible. It's awful. Is that Mike Pence? Did they write a Mike Pence diss track? Like, imagine that. Like, Mike Pence probably said, what, like 4 words the entire time that he was vice president. Like, imagine me like, okay, our next single, guys, we're going to go after that. We're going to take down Mike fucking Pence. Imagine that. Yeah, everyone I disagree with is Hitler core. And, I mean, listen, look at this shit. Like, I don't know what exact role Zach played in the band, but you can see here, like, I don't agree with a lot of Rage Against the Machine's politics, but I respect a lot of what they said. For example, the fact that they brought attention to, like, you know, Native Americans and stuff back in 1992 when nobody was paying attention to that stuff. Even if I don't agree with a lot of the stuff that Rage Against the Machine said, I think they did it pretty well. But then you see this stuff and it's like, even the imagery, it's like, oh God, Trump, you know, doing the Sieg Heil. You're like, oh, come on, guys, come on. This is like fucking like 9th grade. This is like local band shit, you know? Yeah, they lost all subtlety. Nobody in 1992 was paying attention to Rage Against the Machine's lyrics, but you couldn't not pay attention to them. For example, like they beat you over the head with it, which was on purpose. And they should. Like, you can say that you didn't pay attention to the lyrics, but like the message is literally on the screen in front of you in such a way that you can't not pay attention to it. You know, they're telling you the story of the song here in such a way that you can't ignore it. Now, obviously, it's true that the majority of their fans just wanted to like rock out and weren't paying attention to it. And, you know, they're very aware of that. But I mean, the fact of the matter is that the stuff that they were talking about in 1992, again, whether you agree with it or not, you know, to me is secondary. The stuff they were talking about in 1992 was so, like, this was stuff that, you know, if you paid attention to hardcore and stuff, this is things that those bands were talking about. Nobody in the mainstream was talking about this stuff in 1992, and they got it on MTV and SNL and all that stuff. So if the point of the band was to be like a vehicle for this message that they believed to be important, well, then, I mean, they definitely succeeded at that. However, you know, there's these sort of uncomfortable truth that at least 2 of the people in the band seem like giant absolute douchebags, and that really sort of, like I said, it's complicated because as much as I respect them in some ways as musicians, and even if I don't agree with a lot of their politics, I respect, you know, their execution of it. But then, You know, there's stuff like this. For example, the time that Tom Morello here in Seattle went to some dive bar, the 5 Point Restaurant, which I don't know what that is, but they wouldn't let Tom and his crew in because the restaurant was at capacity. And so he complains about this small business on Twitter. So this multimillionaire celebrity who claims to be, you know, an advocate for the little guy and an anti-capitalist, you know, puts this small business on blast on Twitter. And then basically they made a statement. Tom wanted to be let into the restaurant, and the owner of the restaurant, to make a long story short, was like, yeah, rock stars don't get special treatment here. We couldn't let you in because the restaurant was at capacity, and we're not going to kick people out just so that Tom Morello can like come in. So deal with it. And so then he gets all pissy about it. It's unfortunate because I legitimately do think that Tom Morello is a like absolutely ridiculous, amazing, super talented guitarist, in the sense that, you know, the stuff he did back then was like, I mean, nobody had ever made a guitar sound like that, at least not that I was familiar with. And I think it was like really like genuinely brilliant, groundbreaking stuff. So it's unfortunate, you know, that he can be so innovative as a musician and seems like just such a unbearable, such an unbearable human. And then as far as Tim goes, I didn't know what he was like. You know, I just always thought he was the bassist of Rage Against the Machine, and I've always thought he was a fantastic bassist. Again, like I would say one of the best rhythm sections in rock and metal, Tim and Brad. And then, well, interesting guys. So Rage Against the Machine's Tim Comerford explains why ISIS and the lunar landing are fake. So he gives this interview, and basically, you know, this was when ISIS was like sort of the focus of all the, you know, Middle East stuff. And he says, I don't believe that all the different factions in the Middle East have gotten together and said, okay, we all hate each other, hate America. That's a bunch of shit. Go look at these videos and study them. See if you don't think they're fake. There's too much stuff that doesn't look real. We created Jihadi John and ISIS so we can drop bombs. So there you go, people. Speaking the truth to power. ISIS, fake. Source, trust me, bro. I'm the bassist in a rock band. Also said the moon landing is fake. The one thing I always question, we put the flag on the moon. Why do we put a metal rod on the top of it? Why wouldn't we just plant it into the moon's surface and have the astronaut pull it out and let go, and we can watch it do its dance on the moon? It would have been an image we couldn't have faked, and one that we would have never forgotten. Again, hey, listen, source, trust me, bro. I play bass in Rage Against the Machine. Sounds like he's high or something. Yeah, he definitely does sound. He sounds like that stoner, like know-it-all, you know, that would be like a character in a Kevin Smith movie, right? I'm sure Neil Armstrong was thinking about that when he planted the flag. That's right. Let's think about it. You're the first person to set foot on the moon. You're just like hoping that your fucking suit doesn't rupture and, you know, you get instantly frozen to death in the vacuum of space. And you're like, oh, I better be careful with how I plant this flag so it looks nice in a picture 30 years later. This is my favorite thing here. So this was in 2015. He apologized for Limp Bizkit because Limp Bizkit cited them as one of the big inspirations for what they did. This is dedicated to the rap rock band that started this shit. When I first heard this song, this shit hit me right the fuck here. And this next part, fuck you, I won't do what you tell me, changed my life. And then Tim from Rage Against the Machine says, I do apologize for Limp Bizkit. I really do. I feel really bad that we inspired such bullshit. They're gone, though. That's the beautiful thing. There's only one left, and that's Rage. And as far as I'm concerned, we're the only one that matters. My favorite part about that is that Limp Bizkit was not broken up then. Limp Bizkit was together then, which is like, I don't know, like not really that big of a deal. But I think it's pretty funny that he's like, yeah, but we're still here and they're not. And you're like, actually, yes, they are, and probably substantially bigger band than Rage Against the Machine. Definitely, Limp Bizkit, definitely the bigger band than Rage Against the Machine, whether you like it or not. That's just the fact. So, you know, between Tim and Tom, they seem like not the kind of people I would want to hang out with. Let's put it that way. The other thing that I have a little bit of an issue with, like in all seriousness, I really don't think this is cool that they used a lot of this like imagery involving communist stuff that was responsible for a lot of like really heinous, deplorable stuff that like legitimately I question. So let me back up. I understand that a lot of their fans are not aware of this stuff. A lot of their fans just bought the shirt. They don't know what this is. They just bought the shirt. But the people in the band certainly should know what it is. And so people use the word communist way too often. Yeah, but Tom Morello literally wears a hat that says commie on it, and they have Che Guevara on this shirt. I'll tell you why this bothers me. People on the far left widely do consider Che a hero. They do, and they shouldn't. And I'll tell you why. For example, this article here lays it out. Che Guevara was a racist, homophobe, and mass murderer. Gay, Che Guevara would have sent you to a concentration camp. Some examples of that here. Such was the case with gay men who Che Guevara referred to as sexual perverts. Both Guevara and Castro considered homosexuality a bourgeois decadence. In an interview in 1965, Castro explained that a deviation of that nature clashes with the concept we have of what a militant communist should be. So anti-gay. Che Guevara also helped establish the first Cuban concentration camp. From the Nazis, the Cuban government also adapted the motto at Auschwitz, work sets you free, changing it to work will make you men. According to Alvaro Vargas Llosa, homosexuals, Jehovah's Witnesses, Afro-Cuban priests, and others were believed to have committed a crime against revolutionary morals, were forced to work in these camps to correct their antisocial behavior. Many of them died, others were tortured or raped. Guevara also espoused racist views. In his diary, he referred to black people as those magnificent examples of the African race who have maintained their racial purity thanks to their lack of an affinity with bathing. Okay? Like, this is not a good guy. Not a good guy. He also thought white Europeans were superior to people of African descent and described Mexicans as a bag of illiterate Indians. His record of murdering and torturing people is extensive. Researchers have documented 216 victims of Che Guevara in Cuba from 1957 to 59. Suspicion was all that he needed to end a life. There was no need for trial because he said the revolution could not stop to conduct much investigation. It has the obligation to triumph. So, not a good guy. Okay, I thought this was common knowledge by now, but people should know. And I totally understand. Like, I don't fault, if a random fan buys this Che Guevara shirt, that's fine. I totally understand that they probably don't understand the imagery behind it, but the people in the band should. It's not like this is secret knowledge. And so, like, it genuinely bothers me, that they promoted a lot of this stuff, right? It's like, it actually bothers me. And as much as I want to say, like, I don't know Zach, but I know plenty of people who have been around him and stuff back in the day. I've never heard anything but good things about Zach. As much as I want to say, like, that Zach's a good guy and sort of like, excuse this stuff, I'm like, yeah, I can't. I mean, to me, putting Che Guevara on a shirt, yeah, it's like putting Pol Pot on a shirt. Exactly. It always bothered me a lot that Tom would wear that hat that said commie on it because, I don't think that's cute. I understand that he's, sort of using that imagery, as just sort of a way to trigger conservatives that don't like it. And for him, I understand that's just an edgy slogan. And yeah, and using like the red star and stuff like that, I understand that for him, that's just an edgy slogan. But there's a lot of people who legitimately suffered and died under communists to whom that's not an edgy symbol. That's like the same thing to them as seeing a swastika, right? I mean, for example, I talked about this in the video I made about them, but my wife's family are refugees from Vietnam who left the country after the communists put them in prison and, stripped away their citizenship and blah, 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 and did all this stuff. And my father-in-law broke out of prison, stole a boat and got them to a refugee camp and they came here and all that stuff. And if he didn't do that, they'd be dead, right? They'd be dead. They would have died in prison. Like, there's literally millions of people who died in communist prisons in Vietnam. Right? There's millions of them. Do not people suffer and die in capitalism every day as well? Of course they do. But this is childish thinking. Like, to make excuses for communism is childish. Like, it's not debatable. My family is from ex-Yugoslavia. Things got really bad, especially after Tito died. Yeah, Venezuela, like or China. Like, it is not a debate that communism has been responsible for like a tremendous amount of human suffering. Okay, it's not. Like, it is a fact, and that's not even getting into like a political debate. It is a fact, and it really bothers me that Rage Against the Machine used that imagery in such a kind of callous way, right? That's the part that bothers me. So I'm conflicted with Rage Against the Machine. Like, yeah, dying under capitalism isn't caused by the state. I think that's what it is. Of course, lots of bad things have happened under capitalism. It's not like. But the point is to like use this like communist imagery in such a kind of casual way, like it's just a cute slogan, I think is really troubling. Yeah, it'd be like using jihadist imagery. Exactly. It's really troubling. I'm not on board with that. And yet at the same time, I do respect and admire, especially like the first Rage Against the Machine album, when they were getting stuff out there like this, in a way that to me felt very sincere and well done. And I respect it, even if I don't agree with all of it. And so, Rage Against the Machine is kind of a tough one for me. On the one hand, I respect them so much. And then on the other hand, there's so many things about them that I just want to, like, I legitimately would like to sit down with Zach and just be like, what's up with this? Like, I feel like you should know better than this. I feel like you do know better than this. What's up? And I don't know the answer to that. And, Tim and Tom seem like both absolute clowns. So, yeah, I don't know. I was going to say it sucks that they're breaking up, but I don't think it sucks. I think it's time. I do hope that Zach feels better, because those kind of like tendon injuries absolutely suck. So I hope he feels better. But I guess this is it for Rage Against the Machine, unless they come back again. But I don't think they will. I don't think they should. So those are my thoughts on Rage Against the Machine's breakup. That's what I think. Source, trust me, bro,